Good evening, members. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Castle Point's Cabinet meeting on the 15th of March. Members of the Cabinet, I would just like members to introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with Councillor Cole.
Good evening, Mr. Leader. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Councillor Stephen Cole. I'm the Special Projects and Ward Councillor for St George's. Much respect.
Councillor Russell Savage, St Mary's Ward and Cabinet Member for People and Community.
Evening, Councillor Mountford, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Good evening all, Councillor Barry Palmer, Cabinet Member for Regeneration and Economic Growth.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Carol Sage and I'm Cabinet Member for People, Health, Wellbeing and Housing.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Michael Fuller, Cabinet Member for Environment.
And I'm Councillor Dave Blackwell, Leader of the Council. Thank you, members, for that. Have we any apologies?
Leader, may I make an apology for Councillor Warren Gibson?
I was just going to ask if we got any apologies.
I've got you on number one.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. So we've got one apology for absence. Item is any members' interests? No? Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting, members. Is it agreed that I sign the previous minutes? Thank you. Okay, so we have members' questions. I have been noted that we've got Councillor Isaacs, McLean, Dixon, Chas Mumford, Sue Mumford, Andrew Thornton, Jackie Thornton have all given notice they wish to ask questions on the agenda. Thank you. Item 4, the forward plan, members, for your perusal. If you've read it and looked at it, can I say is that noted? Thank you very much. So item 5, Councillor Mumford is going to take the Council Tax Support Fund. Councillor Mumford.
Thank you. So this is quite a good news story. I'm requesting Cabinet to approve the proposed arrangements of how we will distribute the surplus funding resulting from the Council Tax Support Fund for the forthcoming new municipal year. This links into the Council's priorities and objectives to be efficient and provide effective customer-focused services. The main focus relates to the content of Section 5 of this report and specifically the content of paragraphs 5.8 and 5.9. The Cabinet specifically to approve and recommend to Council the proposal set out in the report to use surplus funding and the treatment of newly eligible working age council tax reduction and local council tax support scheme claimants during the year. The key points. In December 22, 100 million of council tax support funding was allocated by the government in recognition of impact of rising bills. This funding was intended to help economically vulnerable households with council tax payments in 23-24. The council tax has received an additional £114,090 funding for this scheme. In summary, this provides a payment of £25 to every household in the borough which is in receipt of the working age council tax reduction or local council tax support on the 1st of April, and also who have a remaining balance of council tax still to pay for the 23-24 year after those benefits are applied. After allowing for these payments, the government guidance stipulates the council has the discretion to allocate any surplus funding as it sees fit to support vulnerable households with council tax bills. Based on the current caseload, a surplus of funding is expected to be around £49,000. The proposal is to allocate any surplus funding to the council's existing exceptional hardship scheme to provide support to vulnerable households under the usual rules of that scheme. The proposal excludes any households which become newly eligible for WACTR or LCTS, which is the Working Age Council Tax Reduction or Local Council Tax Support during the financial year. The proposal delivers a scheme which is simple and easy for residents to understand and apply for. It offers more meaningful support for those in most need and deliverable with minimal administrative impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? No? Members of the council, any more questions? No? Thank you very much. Then, members, the two recommendations, is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 6, a report back on the Paddocks. This item has been deferred for a special cabinet next week, next Wednesday. So I'll move on to item 7, the off-street parking review. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Chairman. Cabinet, you have the report before you. I'm going to give you a summary of the report rather than reading directly from the report itself. The report advises the Cabinet to review the Council's off-street parking policy and to task the Environment Policy and Scrutiny Committee with reviewing the current arrangements and reporting back to Cabinet with its recommendations. The Council owns and operates a number of car parking facilities throughout the Borough, and since the 1st of April 2011, on-street parking enforcement has been managed by the South Essex Parking Partnership, with Chelmsford City Council acting as the lead authority. An extensive review of the operation and management of the Council's car parks was undertaken during 2012-2013, and the review identified 5 key types of car parks based on intended usage, and each of the council-operated car parking facilities was placed in one of these categories, with a consistent charging policy applied to the car parks in each of the 5 categories. Ad hoc changes have been made since the review, such as the introduction of year-round charging at seafront car parks, pay-by-phone options, and various schemes introduced to address school pick-up and drop-off issues. Car parking charges have been reviewed and increased every 2 to 3 years. The soon-to-be installed electric charging points at the Labworth car park will necessitate a change to the Council's off-street parking order to ensure the bays are kept available for their intended use. Having regard to the need to amend the existing off-street parking order, the Council's financial position and pending financial gap in future years, concerns about the capacity of car park provision at Thorney Bay Car Park and Waterside Leisure Centre, plus the growth in cashless payments, the need for the Council to derive maximum benefits from its assets, and the length of time since the last extensive review, it is felt timely that the Council revisits and reviews its off-street parking policy. And this report proposes that the Environment Policy and Scrutiny Committee review the policy and report back to Cabinet with its recommendations. The review will be undertaken using the existing staff resource, and it is intended that the review will be completed by September 2023, so that any financial implications can be incorporated into the 2024-2025 budget setting process. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Members, have you any questions? Councillor Cole.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Councillor Fuller, for this. I think this is long overdue, especially with the current climate, with environmental policies, and hopefully that the Scrutiny Committee will be looking at, especially take like School Lane car parks. There are companies out there now that would go in and cover, so there's cars and vans can go in, but solar panel, which then can cut back on our usage for Waterside Farm, which will help us saving money. I'd like the Scrutiny Committee to look at more solar panels so we can use and charging points in our car parks, please. But thank you very much for this. Well overdue.
Thank you very much, Councillor Colford.
Thank you, Councillor Carl. And I know the Environmental Working Group are having a look into all possibilities in the borough. Any other questions from any members? No? Thank you, members. Are those recommendations agreed? Thank you very much. So, moving on to item 8, damp and condensation and mould policy. Councillor Satch.
Thank you, Leader. All social housing landlords have a responsibility to ensure that the homes they provide are well maintained and of a decent standard. Following the tragic death of Arab Ashak in Rochdale from a respiratory condition caused by extensive mould where he lived, and the failure of Rochdale Council to maintain the property adequately, the Housing Ombudsman issued a report highlighting the seriousness of dealing effectively with damp and mould in council homes. The Ombudsman has made it clear that social housing providers must listen to tenants and take their complaints seriously. Social housing landlords are required not to dismiss reports of dampness, but to make sure that all tenants are provided with information, materials and support to prevent and help them reduce condensation in their homes or to treat underlying damp issues. The policy has been developed following the Ombudsman recommendation that councils should consider whether an overall framework or policy is required, and this policy sets out how the council will address and respond to incidents of damp, mould and condensation in council properties. The key aim of the policy is to set out the council's approach to addressing and resolving reports in its properties and to ensure that the council treats all reports of damp and mould seriously and understands the health implications of failing to address issues swiftly. The policy sets out, amongst other things, the council's commitment to ensure that we provide and maintain dry, healthy and safe homes for our tenants, that we undertake effective investigations and implement all reasonable repair solutions and improvements to eradicate damp, and that we ensure that all tenants have access to advice and guidance on managing and controlling condensation and mould. The recommendation is that Cabinet approves the damp, condensation and mould policy for implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Satch. Members of Cabinet, any questions? Councillor.
Thank you, Leader. I'm glad that this also brought up the issues. It's long overdue, this policy, and over this tragic death, and also lots of illnesses from residents, etc. But I'm glad this also includes us being able to speak to residents about what they can do, because it's not all down to housing defects. Some of it is the way that people live and what they do with simple things like hanging their washing over radiators. Thank you for that.
Councillor Russell.
Probably a question for the officer more so, Councillor Sage, but of the stock that we've got responsibility for within the borough, have we got any issues with conditions of mould and damp? Because we have got a lot of ageing properties, haven't we? And I just wondered if we have actually got an issue there already.
Thank you, Councillor. We undertake a stock condition survey every 5 years for our properties, and at that point in time, it's very much a snapshot. That's every property gets inspected, and that would give us an indication of any damp and mould. We're actually due our next one this year, but the one that we undertook 5 years ago didn't indicate anything. We really operate quite a reactive service in relation to damp and mould, but what we do currently is now being enhanced based on this policy and being implemented in terms of us getting out earlier for earlier intervention, as we've discussed, working with the residents more with the education piece that we need to do as well. We don't have the absolute figures, but I'm not aware of an emerging issue or any particular areas where I think there's any great concern at this time.
Thank you. And I've got to say, I think it's such an important issue nationally as well as just locally, and I think every local authority has got their bit to play. But as Councillor Palmer said, it's so important that we let our residents know how they can avoid it, because it's very difficult on cold, damp days and you've got all the windows shut and the heating all on. And we all know you can get a lot of condensation indoors, and that causes damp, and that causes problems, especially when you've got young children around. But I'm sure as a housing department, we're well on top of that. Any other members, any questions? No? Okay, members, recommendation, is that approved? Thank you very much. Right, moving on, item 9, fireworks event at Waterside Leisure Centre. Councillor Carr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leader. The report's in front of you. Don't have to be a brainiac or a rocket scientist, to get this. Okay, I'll read out the recommendations and I'll give you a quick brief up about it. That Cabinet item, first one, approves the high-level plans to set out in this report for delivery of a public fireworks event at Waterside Leisure Centre. 2. Approves the creation of a budget of £17,000 from the general reserves to support deliver of the event. 3. Delegates authority to the head of environment in consultation with the cabinet member for special projects and the S151 officer to finalise the detailed arrangements for this event, including the preparation of a budget and an event management. So, as you're fully aware, we've been putting this on since 2010, and it is a wonderful event and something we should be extremely proud of in Castle Point. That includes all officers and councillors who have worked over there volunteering on the night in question. Fireworks in your own back garden cost a fortune and they're over and done with within 1 minute. We provide a wonderful event every year and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we was moving forward onto this, and then Councillor Dixon actually brought a motion forward to make sure that this came into place, even though we was working on this. And I'm proud to say that we have brought this forward. It's going to be held at Waterside Farm. It's always been held at Waterside Farm. The reason why it's held at Waterside Farm is that it's our show grand event for Castle Point. Plus it has the community space for car parking, and we have School Lane car parking going inside there. We are one of the few councils left now that actually provides an event. We are not here to make a fortune out of this or a profit. We want to provide a low cost, try break even event for our community and wider. So we want people from Leigh-on-Sea and Basildon to come in because we want this fully supported and move forward. We are going to be looking at getting in outside people to help us organise this. And this is going to be an absolutely fantastic event, and I hope that everyone will come out and support this fully. Any other questions? I can take more of it, but like I said, you don't have to be a rocket scientist.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Members, any questions from Cabinet members? No? Any questions from members? No? Then, thank you very much, Councillor Cole. I'll move the recommendation. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Moving on. Item 10 is the Community Infrastructure Levy implementation, and Councillor Savage is going to take this tonight.
Thanks, Leader. We've had some good news stories over the time that we've taken control of the council, but this is a great news story. You know, this should have come much sooner. So what you have before you is a report on the introduction of a Community Infrastructure Levy for SIL. For Castle Point. SIL is a charge on new development that can be used to secure funding towards local infrastructure projects in Castle Point. Whenever we discuss the development with residents, they've always told us that they are concerned about the impact of development on growth, on local infrastructure, on traffic congestion, on school places, on access to healthcare and on the quality of the environment and community facilities. This SIL gives the council the opportunity to start to address those concerns. In the time whilst we prepare the Castle Point local plan, which is a 3-year programme, we can generate around £3 to £4.5 million in SIL contributions towards local infrastructure projects. We are therefore grateful that the planning inspector approved the charging of SIL in Castle Point at this time, and it is critical that we start charging a SIL as soon as it is possible for the benefit of local residents. Allowing for those applications that have been delayed in the system due to resources issued in the development management team, which have now been addressed, we're proposing that SIL comes into effect on the 1st of May 2023. Your agreement is sought to allow officers the resources necessary to enable this to happen.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Members at the Cabinet, any questions? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Leader. I think this is a double whammy for this council because we're the first one to get this approved without having a local plan in place. So it really is good news story for our council.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Members of council, Councillor Mumford.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. A very good report and very much welcome, because I think this is an important step for us in Castle Point. Just looking back at the November 2019 report, I just wondered for clarification. It stated that where all or part of the levy is collected within an area of a parish or town council, a proportion of the receipts is passed to that council. capped at £100 per dwelling. Also, if the parish or town council has a neighbourhood plan, this increases to 25%. This is known as the neighbourhood portion. Is this still correct? I've looked at the obviously the report, and there's no reference to that. So obviously, the town council can benefit from this. So is it still relevant? Thank you.
Thank you.
It is, but I'll pass you over to the officer to explain. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's still relevant. The £100 was set in 2010, so that's increased with inflation since that time. So when I wrote the report in 2019, it was about £120 per property. It's probably closer to 130 now, given what's happened in the last 12 months. And for Canvey, that would go to the town council. On the mainland, where you don't have parish councils, we have to sort of ring fence that to the local area. So we'd probably create a pot per ward, and then we'd have to find a way of finding local projects so that that's spent in those wards.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Mumford?
Yep, thank you, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay then, members. Is the recommendations agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Moving on again is item 11, Developers Contribution Guidance Supplementary Planning Document Library. Councillor Savage again.
The second report for this evening is on proposals to update the Developer Contribution Guidance Supplementary Planning documents the Council has in place. Much as before, Developer Contributions Guidance sets out how the Council will use Section 106 agreements to make development acceptable in planning terms. Our current guidance is dated 2008. This needs updating, and in November we agreed to go out to consultation on draft replacement guidance, which had already been reviewed by a meeting of the Policy and Scrutiny Committee in October 2022. The consultation took place over a 7-week period from November 2022 to January 2023. Details of the consultation activities undertaken and the responses received are set out in a consultation statement attached to the report. 17 responses to the consultation were received. Following a review of these responses, some modest changes to the replacement guidance are proposed to improve clarity. The overall intention of the guidance remains unchanged. Your agreement is sought to make a recommendation to Council to adopt the replacement guidance and revoke the existing guidance dated 2008. I could go through the full 8 recommendations if you wish, but they are quite comprehensive. But the report's in front of you guys if you want to read it.
Yeah, no, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Councillor Savage. Members, are there any questions? No, members of the council, any questions? No? Right, members, so there are all the recommendations. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Moving on then, the corporate performance scorecard, quarter 3. Councillor Cole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leader. Ladies and gentlemen, members. This is the performance scorecard report of Q3 2022/23. That's up to the end of December 22. Overall summary. Of the 23 indicators reported, 18 are at or above target, 4 are near target, 1 indicator is below target. Trend in performance shows improving performance in 10 indicators, declining performance for 10 indicators, performance levels maintained for 3 indicators. Performance has been good in the following areas. Homeless and prevention and relief above target and improving. So well done, housing. Well done. Leisure memberships is at 3,890 memberships at the end of Q3, and that is expected to be by 4,000 by the end of March. Now, normally sports centres are around about 45. We are punching way above. You know, we are like the Mike Tysons, the Muhammad Ali's in the sports world. So well done to all the guys there, and Shane, and to all the people in our sports and leisure. Places, avoid turnaround times, 17.2 days, over 5.5 days, quicker than at the same time last year, so much improvement there. Planning, taking last time the backlog of application, Team is working through these, and this has fallen from 80 to 30 applications, whilst continuing to deal with new applications as they receive. So a very good improvement there. Fly tipping is at 99% removed within 1 day. So well done to Environment there for getting a fly tipping. Enablers, the wheelie bins, garden waste subscribers, that's improving. And housing benefit processing time for both new claims and changing to existing claims, better than target and improved since the last time last year. So well done there. And we're going to keep an eye on the following areas, and that is long-term sickness. Okay, the average number of days for long-term absences continue to rise, and that's up to 6.2 days, full-time equivalent. Very small for the number of employees, but it does have an impact. So, you know, stop going sick, or that's all I can say. Okay. Any questions? Please come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Members, any questions? Members of the council? No? Members, is that noted? Thank you very much. Moving on then to the final item, item 14. That about scrutiny and the cellar, and it all come about by a resident who actually put a question into myself about scrutinising the cellar, and I'm very pleased the person did, because it gave us an opportunity to actually scrutinise the cellar. What is the cellar? And so I'd like to thank Councillor, he's not here, Councillor Isaac, for chairing the Scrutiny Committee, and an excellent meeting. And so I think members are more aware what a cellar do. And so the recommendations, unless members have got any questions on it, the recommendations are to support the conclusion of the Scrutiny Committee that more action should be taken to demonstrate to the public the benefits of membership to a cellar. And I think that is so important. To that end, to endorse that Scrutiny Committee should continue to review regularly the work undertaken through the cellar Joint Committee. And I think that shows that we want residents to understand what it's all about, and members to actually have an input of what the cellar does. So, members, there's 2 recommendations on there, and is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, members. That ends the meeting. Thank you all for coming along, and good night. Well done.